Hello there. How are you? I wanted to come on today and just be real and authentic here, which I try to do anyway, but this time a little less organized, a little less planned, and a little bit more surrendered and spontaneous. And talk a little bit about this crazy, beautiful journey of healing. And when we're talking about healing, for me, that really just means remembering who I am. And so for you, what does that mean? What does healing mean for you? I think part of this journey, without a particular destination, because we are eternal ultimately, but part of this is finding that we are already perfect. Now, I'm not talking about the human definition of perfect. Oh, no, no way. There is no judgment or criticism or labeling or defining what perfect is when we step out of the body mind programming. It's really just remembering that we are not our bodies and we're not our mind or our programming. We are eternal. We are the light within this vessel. And the remembering process is really just the unveiling and dropping away of the veils of illusion. And really, what I'm finding, especially in my own journey and my journey with my clients, is that these veils of illusion are usually very heavily stuck in the mental realm. What am I talking about? I'm talking about the brain, the mind, our cultural programming to logically analyze and find solutions in our life and direction and meaning and security through our thoughts. And that's where I certainly was led into a world of pain and suffering. And I'm sure you were too. And it's really, I just want to reassure you, if you are struggling on some days, you have a lifetime of programming that you are unraveling and letting go of. So naturally, there's going to be times where that programming wants to take charge again. The default. It's like coming off caffeine. If you've ever attempted to quit caffeine, if that's ever been something, it's very prolific in our culture to drink coffee every morning. What if you decided that you don't want that as a pick me up or a wake up and you don't want to have to rely on that anymore? Well, you're going to go through a process of withdrawal because the body and the mind became programmed into that being part of its system, its ecology. So when you remove a part of an ecological system, everything else in that system has to rearrange. And there's going to be a transition period, a period that sometimes it feels like confusion or overwhelm or stuckness or just feeling that there's no clarity on what step to take next. And so naturally, as we learn to operate from a completely different paradigm, I'm talking about moving into the heart space and allowing the mind to become a servant to the inspired new steps that we take in each moment rather than the thought out or logically programmed thoughts that we used to take. And so this is a whole different way of being. So if you do feel that you feel stuck or confused or kind of lost as well, I want to reassure you, because this is new territory. It's not mapped yet. It's not mapped. There's no manual for this. Certainly not available yet. There are fringe groups and there are special people out there who are already mapping this for themselves and wanting to share that. But it's going to be difficult for us to receive that new information while we're still withdrawing from the old way of being in our heads. Allow yourself time. Be patient in this process. What I've noticed, and I would say a lot of thanks is given to my conscious journaling process. Each day I write in a book my insights, any changes in patterns that I've noticed, triggers or reactions, falling away of old programs, anything that's stuck and stubborn in my life. Everything I bring to the light of consciousness by writing it down. You might have a different way. But this is what I'm talking about when I suggest that the goal is to become conscious in every moment of our waking states. Because through the light of consciousness, or the observer, we change our reality much quicker, very, very fast. And so those who are growing and changing and evolving quickly have made it a priority to be conscious in everything they do moving forward. So part of this journey for me is I've noticed that things are getting easier. And even during these periods where I feel lost, the withdrawal periods, as we gradually and slowly and maybe quickly for you, withdraw from old addictions. And I'm not talking about your average Hollywood addiction here. I'm not talking about, yes, they're included, drugs, alcohol, sex, whatever it is. But I'm talking about other addictions. I'm talking about anything that you're attached to that gives you a feeling of love and security, a false or illusory experience of love and security. This is an addiction. It's a program that's running. So as we withdraw our addictions and they lose their power, we're going to find new, wonderful, freeing, blissful experiences begin to increase in our lives. And so my old mentor in NLP, he used to say, confusion, Melise, is the step before learning. And I found when I first heard that, it was extremely comforting. Because, yeah, I had a lot of confusion. I was always someone who wanted to grow very quickly beyond my own capabilities sometimes. I just wanted to know it all and I wanted to be better and I wanted it to be better, yesterday. So a lot of my journey into healing has been learning patience, one step at a time. But recognizing that if you are someone who definitely wants growth in a multidimensional way, I'm not talking about material growth. I'm talking about multidimensional growth, growth of your knowing who you are, growth of that strength in that divine communion in each moment, and growth in letting go and recognizing and being able to quickly identify the illusion in your life. That's the kind of growth that will come with confusion. So be reassured, confusion is the step before learning. Be gentle on yourself. Be patient. You got this. It requires letting go in these moments, especially. Learning the new way of being is an act of surrender. And it's an active act. It needs to be occurring all day long, every day. And so that the only actions we take, and that will become all of our thoughts, words, and deeds eventually, will be inspired, meaning from spirit, not from our programming, our body and our mind. And so I've noticed in my own life, as I'm moving through these phases of change, as I shed the Maya or the illusion in my life, all the stories and the narratives, as I watch this evolution take place within my own life, I can now see how the separate components of me, the mind and the body and the emotions, all these things that I'm utilizing as a being in a human body, I can see how separate they have been acting in unison for a while in a kind of a leading me astray, leading most of us astray, because we allowed the mind to take command rather than the spirit or the soul or the heart. And so as we readjust, part of that is recognizing the mind can run on autopilot. 95% of our thoughts, science has shown, are subconscious. They're just programs running. Robotic programs running. That's not us. They're not us. I know I talk about this a lot. But as we move into higher levels of perception, we see that the mind, when our old, let's say we're triggered by something in the past that would have got us into strife, into pain and suffering. Let's say someone does something in the external world that triggers you. Now, as we move into higher levels of perception, we can very quickly recognize the mind wanting to do its thing, wanting to take us for a ride into a new story or narrative. And we know that these stories and narratives come with frequencies that bring into our lives strife, bring into our lives pain, frequencies, low vibratory states, anger, sadness, frustration, guilt, grief, fear. And these lower states of vibration or frequency only are allowed to operate when we allow them to. And this is where our higher levels of perception are now allowing us to perceive the story before we take it on. We can observe the mind wanting to make up a new story, why he or she did that to me. And we can just allow ourselves, our true self, the soul, to observe that without getting involved anymore. And I tell you what, the whole thing quickly gets blown out, dissolves, and disappears before it can take you onto a whole new way of pain. And so that fire isn't ignited anymore. And we just allow these old programs to just fizzle out because we're not giving them any fire. And this comes with less chatter, less of that, less that little voice causing us an endless distraction and disharmony, taking us far away from peace. Much less of that. So one of the parts or pieces, if you like, of learning who we really are, remembering who we really are, it's really nothing we have to do. It's really just shedding illusion, is recognizing that we have disconnected ourselves. We have not allowed our beautiful inner technology that we've been gifted with when we were given this body to have a human experience to come online. And so this is prolific in our world, especially now. We operate under the mechanisms of fight, flight, freeze because our body is completely disconnected from a harmonious ecosystem. In other words, our nervous system is shot. I'm sure you can identify with that. Now, our nervous system within our body, the energy centers, the chakras, has been designed to give us a beautiful, unencumbered, free flow of energy in and out, up and down the central channel. Part of this journey of healing is becoming a best friend to our body again. And I've talked about emotions. Of course, we need to become friends with our emotions as well and stop judging and resisting them. But our bodies as well, we need to reconnect with them. Some of us have never connected with them. We were so traumatized when we were born. We never connected with them. We never have had a fine-tuned nervous system working the way it's supposed to. So we've got to learn to connect to our bodies again. And for some of us, that's even starting with the basics, like, when am I thirsty? And I should get a glass of water. As simple as that. I used to have an issue with that too. I was always dehydrated because I had completely shot nervous system. I didn't listen to my body. There was no signals that were being received effectively. And this is a way of us to stay out of our bodies. It's like a trauma reaction. It is a trauma reaction. So for a lot of us, I would say the vast majority of us, we are completely traumatized. And so we've cut ourselves off from our body and we're not grounded at all. And we cannot possibly have optimum free-flowing energy within our beings, receiving insight and communing with source if we have cut off our body. So learning to listen to your body. And this is a beautiful thing, is you can get to the energy in motion, or the emotion within your body, before it turns into a disempowering state. And that's what I've been working on in my own life and seeing amazing results. I really wish they taught this in school. That might be a little way off still. But the first phase of this is recognizing that emotions are energy in motion within the body. So if you can catch the energy in motion before it becomes a story or a narrative that causes more pain and more poison for you, you can catch it when it's just a sensation in your body, then you are able to release it before it becomes a repressed emotion and starts to build up as a block in your life and cause dis-ease. So that's part of the process of healing too. And for me, that's really just recognizing sensations in your body during triggering moments in the past where you would have liked to blame, criticize, and judge some external force for your pain and discomfort. Stopping and recognizing instead that there's energy in motion within your body before it becomes a story and before it becomes much harder to let go and release. And so I would highly recommend, if you look into bioenergetics, Dr. Sue Morter, beautiful cutting edge information about this process of healing our emotional body, our mental body, and our physical body. And the other thing you'll notice as you go through this process of healing and shedding the Maya, remembering who you are, is that you will be less reactive and you will be less likely to fall into those old traps again, where you want to blame some external force. We need to remember as conscious beings that everything in our external reality is a mirror, a direct projection of something in here that still needs healing. So we're going to end up with less stories, less head chatter, less dovetailing, and to plots to engage us, distract us, and to get lost in. And this is beautiful. And this is why it is so much more peaceful where we're going. There's less concern for desire and approval as well. We know this is a big one in our society. This is a big one for myself and most of my clients, most of my friends and family. We're all trying to be desired and approved of at the expense of our own health and the health of everyone around us, because we're not honoring ourselves, so we don't give permission to others to honor themselves and be real and authentic. And so as we move into new levels of perception, we will see that it's okay to be real. It's okay to let go of those shadows or those unexpressed emotions and stories, to let them go, to release them. And it's okay, and it's going to become more easier to connect with each other because we're not externalizing our own pain anymore. We're not projecting it onto someone else and creating poison between us. That's freeing. That's really beautiful. So I'm sure if you've experienced this in your life, if you've begun to be more real and be more honest with your feelings, and this is about boundaries as well. This is about asserting your boundaries, to look after and honor yourself so that others can also give themselves permission to do the same. This creates a trust between people. And we naturally will put our guards down. We'll release a lot of that heart wall that we've all put up to guard ourselves, usually from very young, our whole lives. And we can truly connect with others. And so for you, this might just start with someone you really trust. But if you can practice this in your life, being real and authentic with at least one person, sharing all of your fears, all of your loves, and everything, shade in between, without fear of judgment, in total acceptance of each other, then you are bridging the illusion of separation. And this is what we need to do before, as a collective, we can find heaven here on earth. Heaven is unity. It's remembering we are one. So until then, and while we're still in this state of fear of each other, fear of being true and honest with each other, fear of being judged and criticized by each other, while we're still in these states, we're going to be in that illusion of separation. So you can be the first one in your life or your family to begin to break that cycle and create true, intimate connection. One step closer to unity consciousness. And it will become easier. I can promise you that. It becomes easier, and that fire will spread from one person to two to three, etc. Before you know it, very quickly, you'll have a whole tribe that will feel beautiful, like nothing you've ever felt before. For a lot of us, we've never experienced true connection. I know in my life, it was something I craved. It was always a focus for me. It's like, I just want connection. I felt alienated in school. I went to 6 different schools. Felt alienated. Always felt like no one could see me or I was being judged as ugly, unliked. This whole illusion of separation, can you imagine how many people are walking around thinking the same things? I used to be so worried about what people would think of me. I used to be trapped in that like a prison. So hyper alert about the way I was presenting myself in each moment in the public. I would be hypercritical of the way I looked, and that's why I had an eating disorder. I got stuck in this painful cycle of trying to be loved through approval and desire. And it was just separation pain. And so I didn't realize, and this is what we're realizing now, of course, I needed to learn to love myself first. Because really, we're all just one. So when I learned to and became really loving towards myself, naturally that's going to change the approach that I take to connecting with others. So it's not about trying to change anyone around you. It's about healing that relationship with yourself. In fact, the core, the root challenge and problem and issue in all of our lives is this relationship with ourselves. I was also brought up in a dogmatic religious household where I was taught that I was a sinner. That there was fundamentally something bad about me. Of course, this didn't make any sense because I was taught at the same time I was a child of God and a spark of the Creator. But can you see why that would be a problem? It causes a schism. We need to let that stuff go. That is all illusion. For us to truly create unity and love with each other, we have to love ourselves. And we have to love ourselves the way we love Source. For we are Source. Does that make sense? It's important that you grasp that as you move forward. Another thing you'll notice as you move forward in this journey, and yes, I mentioned at the beginning, confusion, feeling lost, ungrounded. You know why? Because we've created meaning out of the security and structure of the external world our whole lives. We've created meaning out of our job, our position in society, how much money we have, how much we own, how much study we've done, how many children we've had, how much travel we've had, how much popularity and status we have, how much power we have. All of this external attachment, which is an addiction, to create meaning, self-image. This is not the new way of being. This will lead us in continual cycles of pain and suffering. And you know this. You've been there. You've experienced this. We've had enough of that. It doesn't work. So as we become really good at remembering who we are in every moment and letting go of all the illusion that we need some sort of external approval or desire, we become more present. Because all of that stuff that we used to put meaning in, that used to help us feel grounded and part of something and secure, that's all based in the illusion of the future or the past. All of that stuff needs the concept of time and space to hold power or force. When you let go of all that, because we know that time and space are an illusion and that our true self is eternal, is pure loving awareness, when we let go of all that, all we have is this presence. And that's where, going back a little bit, where we really need to learn connection with each other, that's where vulnerability is so key. Vulnerability is us being present. with each other, exactly how we are in that moment. Not trying to create something other than who we are in that moment and the experience we have in that moment. Being brutally honest with who we are in each moment. That's truly courageous. Being vulnerable is courageous. There's no judgment, because judgment is based on the illusion of the external world. But there's some highest ideal to achieve. So this new increasing presence in our lives means that we will be able to hear wisdom, guidance, intuition, and intelligence in each moment, which is inspiration. We do not need to battle between this idea that we need to be in total surrender versus creating. We are creator beings. This is never going to change. Surrender just means we receive the next step to create through inspiration or spirit. So it is key that we become present and totally surrendered to spirit, to receive the guidance, to take the next step. And this is what we're talking about when we talk about having unshakable inner peace. There is no more monkey mind in the process. The mind becomes the servant of the heart, the servant of inspired action. The two work in coherence together, in harmony. The body comes online as a receiver of energy of flow, as a signaler of flow. And we become this fine-tuned humming instrument for creation in this experience. And that's where ease and grace fall into the experience for us. So we're just getting better at this whole process. That's all. So I hope that I've shared some things that might be helpful for you. Just wanted to really just come on and speak a little bit more about what we're all going through. And I think I really just wanted to talk openly about the struggles that we're going through, to reassure you that it's okay. It's normal to feel overwhelmed, confused, lost, uncertain, ungrounded. Just go with it. You don't need to be producing, achieving, and creating any more from your small self, meaning from any kind of external force, external self-image, external pressure, societal values, anything that's not of spirit. You will be looked after in grace, in joy and flow when you truly embrace this and surrender. Joyful surrender. And it just becomes easier. So I'd love to hear your comments about this video or anything that inspired you, or any struggles or challenges or positive aspects of change that you've noticed in your life as we remember who we are. So have a beautiful afternoon, evening, morning, and speak again soon. See ya.